Mr. President, on behalf... Okay. Mr. President, on behalf of Fidelity Investments, our distinguished guests, all the attendees here today, I want to welcome you to Merrimack, New Hampshire. This is quite an honor. But actually, I should be welcoming you back to New Hampshire because, as you know, you were here 4 years ago, just before the 2000 primary. And we had an opportunity to show you a little bit about Fidelity Investments, the largest mutual fund company in America. And it was a great visit, I think. Here at Fidelity, we're very proud that we've got 3,400 representatives that are working here at the site. And those folks do a lot of things. Some of the significant things that they do are, we've got our bond and mutual fund group that's here, and they're trading over $360 billion in assets every day. We've got customer service representatives that are on the phones with our customers, answering over 250,000 phone calls a day. We've got representatives that are dealing with human resources administration issues for our customers, and also for benefit solutions outsourcing for our customers as well. But the thing I'm most proud of, I think, is the fact that with all the busy days that we have around here, many of our employees find time to volunteer. In fact, last year, over 700 of our employees contributed 3,500 hours of community service. And they were involved with organizations like Reading is Fundamental and the American Heart Association Heart Walk. Something you should know is that Louise Hickey, who's sitting here on the panel today, has been the largest individual fundraiser for the Heart Walk in New Hampshire for the last 2 years.
Very good.
Now, I know that all these people want to hear about your opinion of the economy and want to know a little bit more about the panelists that are here today. But before I turn this over to you, I'd just like to thank you on behalf of our 18 million customers for your leadership in providing better options for retirement savings and for reducing the capital gains and dividends tax. You know, we happen to know a little bit of something about financial services, and we understand the long-term benefit that your actions will do for our customers. So thank you again for your leadership, and thank you for coming to Merrimack. And
thank you, Dale. Appreciate it. Thank you all. Be seated, please. It's nice to be back. I understand there's been some activity in the state of New Hampshire recently. I appreciate your hospitality. It's great to be back at Fidelity. It's good to see Mr. Johnson, Ned Johnson, who is the founder of this fantastic company. And Abby, the president, Abby Johnson. There is nothing wrong with a child following in the father's footsteps. It is really good to be back here again. I really appreciate you coming. We're going to have an interesting discussion today about the economy. And before we get to there, I do want to say something about some of the elected officials that have joined us, starting with your two United States senators. My buddy Judd Gregg does a fabulous job for the people of New Hampshire, and I'm really proud he's here. Thank you, Judd. And so is Sununu. John Sununu is doing a fine job as well. I am proud that Jeb Bradley, the congressman from this district, traveled with me today. I appreciate Jeb's leadership and his friendship in Congress. Thank you, Jeb. And, of course, there's Charlie Bass. He's the other congressman from this great state. Good friend, fine congressman. Appreciate you coming, Charlie. I know we got state officials here, the attorney general's here, the leader of the Senate's here, the Speaker of the House is here. I appreciate Bernie Streeter, the mayor of Nashua, being here. It's good to see you again, Bernie. I want to thank a lot of my buddies who are on the Executive Council for the great state of New Hampshire. It's good to see Ruthie Griffin and Ray and Dave Wheeler. I appreciate you all coming. I'm honored that you're here. Most of all, I want to thank you all for giving us a chance to talk about the economy. Before we do so, though, I do want to point out a citizen named Dan Hebert who's with us. Dan is a USA Freedom Corps volunteer. 2 years ago, I started what's called the USA Freedom Corps. It started to give people a chance to serve their communities. There's a lot of volunteering going on in this state. We just witnessed an accolade for one. But so we in Washington started this website for people to be able to tap into kind of modern technology to find out what was available in your area if you wanted to follow your heart and serve your community. And Dan is one such person. He is he's using his 25 years in business to help youngsters understand the basics of the economy. In other words, he's mentoring a child. We talk about the great strengths of our country. Oftentimes people think about the military might of America. And by the way, it is a great strength, and we're going to keep it that way. They talk about you know, the wealth of the country, but the truth of the matter is the strength of our country is the heart and souls of our citizens. People who are willing to volunteer time to serve in a cause greater than themselves, which is to help somebody who hurts, or to lend a talent to help somebody achieve the American dream. And I appreciate all of you who are volunteering. I love it when I hear a company like Fidelity has had 3,500 man-hours of volunteer time. It speaks to the charitable nature of the executives of this company, and it speaks to the great hearts of the employees. Dan, I want to thank you for coming as well. I appreciate you coming out to the airport. I appreciate you setting an example. And if the people of New Hampshire are interested in serving your state, love your neighbor just like you'd like to be loved yourself. Volunteer of your time to help somebody who hurts, and New Hampshire will be a better place when you do so. We're here to talk about this economy. I want to remind you what our economy has been through. See, I'm really optimistic about the future. I think after you hear this discussion, I think you'll be optimistic, at least if you pay attention to what you hear. But I'm optimistic because I know what we've been through, and I want you to think about what we've been through. First, we had a recession in America. The stock market started to decline in March of 2000. It's kind of a leading indicator of what was to come. And then the country went into a recession. The first 3 quarters of '01 were negative growth. When you have negative growth, it means people are not working. And times were tough. The people in New Hampshire know what I'm talking about. When that recession came, it was awfully hard for some people to be able to do their duty as a mom and dad to put food on the table because their work wasn't steady. And they're worried about employment if they were working at all. And then things started to get pretty good, started coming out of it, and then the enemy hit us. And make no mistake about it, that affected America. It affected our economy in a big way. It also affected our psychology. There was a day when we thought oceans could protect us from an enemy, that we were okay if there was a threat overseas because oceans served as protection for America. September the 11th changed that forever. It changed that point of view. And the war affected us. As an aside, I do want to thank the people of New Hampshire for understanding the stakes, that the world has changed, that in order to make America secure, we must stay on the offensive against those who would do us harm. And to that end, you've sent brave souls from the New Hampshire National Guard into harm's way. And I want to thank the moms and dads and husbands and wives of those troops who are making a great sacrifice for the country. I particularly want to pay tribute to Sergeant Randy Rosenberg of Berlin, New Hampshire, who paid the ultimate price for our security and freedom. Our prayers go to his loved ones and we thank him for his service. I want his loved ones to know, and the people of New Hampshire know, that a free and peaceful Iraq is in this nation's interest. A free and peaceful Iraq in the heart of the Middle East is in our nation's long-term security interests. It will mean our children can grow up in a more secure and peaceful world. I also want you to know strongly that I believe that freedom is not America's gift to the world. Freedom is the Almighty's gift to each person in this world. And where we see suffering and tyranny and starvation and brutalization, this nation will act. We'll act for our own security. We will act for the freedom of others. We've made some tough choices recently, but all these choices are aimed for one thing: to make America more secure, the world more free, and the world more peaceful. And then when we got going after the attacks, we had some corporate scandals in America which affected the economy. It affected the economy because when CEOs act incredibly irresponsibly like they were, it creates doubt. In a system that requires trust, there was doubt. And we acted, though. We didn't sit around trying to figure out what to do. We passed tough laws to hold corporate criminals to account. The message is very clear now to people in corporate America. If you've got the responsibility to shareholders, employees, we expect you to tell the truth. We expect you to be above board. We expect you to be honest. And if not, there will be consequences. And then And then finally, we began a march to war for our security, and it's hard to be optimistic during a period when you're marching to war. March to war is not a positive thought. Now we're marching to peace. Now times have changed. We're beyond that period. You know, we'll debate about the decision, and I look forward to those discussions with the American people. I'm absolutely convinced it was the right thing to do. And I look forward to explaining it clearly to the American people. But now we're securing the peace. And we moved, so we've been through a lot, if you think about it, in 3 years. I mean, it's a lot for an economy to go through and a nation to go through. But this is a strong nation because we're entrepreneurial. We believe in our people. It's a strong nation, really, because the American people are strong. Tough, resilient, compassionate people. Congress acted too. I had a little hand in it. They said if we got a slow economy, if we got a lot of things we overcome, let people keep more of their own money. We believe that when people have more money to spend, to save, or invest, the economy will grow and people will be more likely to find work. The tax relief we passed was essential to get the economy going. It was essential to let people have money. It's working. It's working. The economy's growing. People are finding work. There's an excitement in our economy. And the tax relief we passed made sense then. It makes sense now. And Congress needs to make this tax relief permanent. We need to make sure that people... Yesterday I gave a talk about how to continue economic vitality. One of them is to help work controlling costs of health care. There's ways to do that without nationalizing health care. I'm absolutely convinced if the federal government tries to run the health care system, it'll foul it up. People get lousy care, the doctor-patient relationship will be destroyed, and the cost of medicine will go up. I believe in allowing small businesses to pool risk across association health plans in order to control costs. I believe in expanding health savings accounts for Americans, which will create cost savings in the system. I believe we need medical liability reform all across America to get rid of the junk lawsuits that raise the cost of medicine. Our housing market is strong. We intend to keep it that way. There's a home ownership gap in America, by the way, that we need to address. There's a minority home ownership gap. I want to thank the Congress for working with us to pass what we call a down payment plan to help the poor make a down payment on a home. We're simplifying the fine print, the rules in Washington. Listen, if you're a first-time home buyer and you take a look at one of these mortgage application forms, you pass out over the amount of small words in the thing. It makes you nervous. So we're simplifying it. We're helping people understand what it means to buy a home. We're making good progress when it comes to closing the minority home ownership gap. Home ownership is high in America today, and that's good for the country. The more people own something, the more they have a stake in the future of this country. You can tell I'm upbeat, and I've got reason to be. And I got reason to be. Not only the numbers say things are looking pretty good, the American people are telling me they feel pretty good. The American people feel confident about the future. I'm here with Louise Hickey. She's a Fidelity employee. Been here 5 years. She saved $1,100 on tax relief last year. Now that may not sound like a lot to some of the people who are rolling in cash. That's a lot. And it made a difference. Welcome. Go ahead and tell us.
I guess I'm going to start with my past. I'm a New Hampshire native, and you won't meet many of us. We have a lot of people who have come to share New Hampshire who weren't necessarily born here. And I've been educated in New Hampshire and taught school for high school English, everyone's favorite, for 25 years. And then I worked for a short time, for a few years, with my husband in an import-export business that had a home office. And I was his complete IT department until he became computer literate. And then I didn't have enough to do, so I started back as a temp and came here. When I came to Fidelity, I think the first day I came here, I knew this is where I needed to be. And it took me a year to become a permanent full-time employee, but I had very good experiences in my first 2 temporary assignments. I can't say enough good about Fidelity. It trains us. Now, you'd think if I taught English for 25 years, maybe I knew enough. But you know what? The world doesn't stay still. So everyone needs to learn constantly. And I have had the benefit of the training offered by Fidelity online, where I could work at my own desk, at my own pace, classroom training on site, and also with New Horizons Computer Learning Center, where I took IT courses. That's been a great benefit to me. My future is with Fidelity, I hope. I hope to retire
it is
from
now.
Fidelity. Well, the only thing that would keep me from that would be an offer from the White House that I couldn't refuse.
I don't know. I'm not so sure.
My family is here today, and they have been my inspiration. My husband is my inspiration, obviously, for my Heart Walk activities because he has survived several heart attacks. And right there. He has always been a great inspiration to me. And the new campaign this year for the Heart Walk, God, don't let me forget this pin, is Go Red for Women. And Laura Bush appeared in the October magazine of Glamour with several other prestigious women in the country, almost as prestigious, but not quite. And so I would like to offer President Bush a red pin.
Thank you.
And I guess I want to give you my take on the tax relief. $1,100 is a significant amount of money. I have to tell you, too, that at Fidelity, with my 401k in the 4.5 active years in Fidelity, I have more than doubled the amount in my retirement fund than I did in 22 years of teaching. So, if you'll have me, Chairman Johnson, I'm here for the duration. The other thing I want to tell you is that the tax relief, eliminating the marriage penalty, has also obviously helped our life. And my husband and I were married on the 4th of July. It will be 40 years this 4th of July. And I want to know if that tax relief would be retroactive.
That's right. Good job. Yeah, Louise said she was an English teacher. I thought she said, Mr. President, you could use a few lessons, you know.
One last thing, Mr. President. It is an absolute honor to be on the stage today with you. I was here 4 years ago. I had my picture taken with you 4 years ago, and it's graced my desk at work every day since. And also, I want to thank you on behalf of everyone here for the honor and dignity which you have given to the Oval Office.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. You're sweet. I saw your husband had a little tear in his eye over there when he said you loved him. That was nice. Thank you all. Louise talked about the marriage penalty relief. It doesn't make any sense to tax marriage. I mean, you're trying to encourage marriage in America, not discourage it, and the tax code ought to do so. By the way, part of the tax relief we passed, of course, was to raise the child credit from $600 to $1,000 a child. It means if you got young kids, it helps. We're about to talk to somebody, Steve Marshall, who's got young kids. It helps a lot. I want to remind you about another aspect of the tax relief. We reduced taxes on everybody, as opposed to trying to pick or choose winners. In the political debate, everybody got tax relief. It had a significant impact not only on individuals' lives, that is, rate reduction did, but it also affected small businesses. A lot of small businesses are what they call sole proprietorships or subchapter S corps. They pay tax at the individual tax rate level, and by reducing all taxes, we benefited the small business sector of America, and that's very important for this reason. 70% of new jobs in America are created by small businesses. And if you're interested in job creation, it seems to make sense to stimulate growth in the small business sector, which is precisely what we did. We're going to hear from some small business owners in a minute. But I just want to remind you about some of those aspects of the tax code, by the way, all of which are set to expire. In order to get the bill out of the Congress, they said, fine, we'll give you tax relief, but we're going to take it away pretty soon. So when you hear me talk about making it permanent, the reason I have to say that is that the law isn't permanent. And you're about to hear the story of a fellow who's got 3 young kids. Steve Marshall works at Fidelity, been here since '96. Steve, I appreciate you coming. Tell us about your family. Tell us about the tax savings, about $2,200, by the way. And that's per year. It's not just a year. This is permanent so long as it's in existence. And one of the things we're going to keep talking to Congress about, I don't have any problem with these congressmen and senators, but is to make it permanent. Steve, welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Again, I am also extremely honored to be up here with you, and I'm grateful that you gave us this time. I've been with Fidelity since 1996, and I started out in Salt Lake City, Utah. By the way, you have a ton of supporters in Utah, and many of them are here tonight.
That's
so.
right.
We are, again, very grateful to have you. And when my wife, my beautiful wife, Rachel, who's out there rocking our youngest child right now, when she and I moved out here in 1997 from Salt Lake City to come to work for Fidelity, we were just very excited to be here. The nice part for us is we have 3 beautiful little children. We have our oldest son is Alex. He's 4 years old, just like his mother, gorgeous.
I can see that, yeah.
Yeah. It's obvious. Thank you. Our second son is Hayden. He unfortunately looks like me.
Yeah,
Hayden's 2 years old, and my beautiful daughter Aubrey is right out there, and she's just 4 months old. So,
right.
And I'm sure my wife will be happy to
There
pass
she
her
is,
around if
yeah.
you want to see her. There she is. Yes, and I was very grateful, President Bush, when you passed those, got the tax credit passed, it had a major impact on our family. That $2,200 that we're using, we're finishing an upstairs bathroom that we have. For any of you who have 3 children and a beautiful wife, you know that 1 bathroom is not enough. So we are very, very grateful for that, and it's been quite nice for us. Also, I've used some of the money to increase my 401k contributions, which is wonderful because, again, with all these children, we're going to need to be able to retire on our own, and we're grateful for that. I do hope, along with you, and I'll do what I can to do my part, to make these permanent. My family can definitely use it, and we're very grateful for what you've done.
Well, I appreciate that, Steve. One of the things that he mentioned, he said he spent the money to remodel his house. Well, somebody had to come and remodel the house. Somebody had to buy the equipment. The way this economy works is when you put money in circulation, you increase demand for goods and services. And that's important when times are slow. So Steve goes out and demands an additional good and a service. He demanded the service of somebody remodeling his house. The good was, you know, the toilet or wherever he put in the bathroom. I hope.
Toilet and shower. Oh, it's beautiful.
Shower, yeah, the shower. I'd suggest the toilet as well, but at any rate, it puts money in circulation. That's how the economy works. So when you hear people say tax relief didn't affect the economy, you think about Steve and the fact that he had additional money that not only could he set aside for savings, but he had additional money to go spend. And it's that spending on the margin that got things moving throughout the economy, because there's millions of decisions being made daily with people who've got extra money. The other thing you got to know is that if the tax relief had been made permanent, just next year alone, he will have a $1,000 tax increase. In other words, the child credit goes away in 2005. That means the benefits of the tax relief start getting sucked out of the economy at the exact wrong time. We need to keep this money in the hands of the people of America. Listen, government's got plenty of money, and it needs to stay focused and principled. We need to be wise with the taxpayers' money. But it turns out when you're trying to keep your economy going, the best way to do so is not through government spending, but it's through the spending of thousands of individuals across our economic spectrum. And this is exactly why I've asked Steve to come today, so he can help explain how you increase demand and what it means for a family's security. He's got 3 young kids. He's now got a little extra money in his pocket to save or to spend, and all of a sudden life looks better. He's more optimistic. And that's important for this nation, people to feel that way. So thanks for coming. Your baby's beautiful, by the way. I see her back there. Amy Meany is with us. Amy is an employee of Fidelity as well. She's ready to go?
Sure.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is also an honor for me to meet you today. I have been working for Fidelity for 2.5 years. It's been a pleasure. I am married to my wonderful husband, Chris, who's right in the front row.
Fine-looking lad.
We have 2 adorable children, a daughter who's going to be 3 in February, and a son who's 8 months old this weekend. And the tax relief has helped us a lot. We're going to save almost $2,000. And we also are going to remodel our home with that money.
That's good. That's good.
And I do have a question for you on behalf of New England. We need to know, are you rooting for the Pats this weekend?
Did you notice who was in the box with Mrs. Bush at the State of the Union? No? Tom Brady. Let me change the subject here. See, if you're a young family, no kidding, think about this. Think about a young family worried about their future, worried about jobs, worried about the economy, worried about what we've been through, and all of a sudden there's $2,000 additional a year to spend. I mean, it makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference. Sometimes in Washington we forget the effects of policy on people, the positive effects. And this $2,000 means a lot to the Meany family. By the way, if Congress doesn't act to make the child credit permanent, they lose $715. It's like a tax increase. When you're coming out of economic slow times, you don't want to tax people. It'll slow this economy down. We're making progress. The third quarter growth of last year was the highest in nearly 20 years. Things are positive. And Congress has got to know that when they say, oh, we must let the tax cuts expire, it affects the Meanies. It affects them to the tune of $715 per year. And with 2 little kids, that matters. I appreciate you coming.
Thank
Quit putting me on the spot.
I won't do it again.
That's right. So we got employees of Fidelity here, citizens who are trying to get ahead. And I appreciate you sharing the stories. We've also got some entrepreneurs, some business owners, some dreamers, some people who are willing to take risk in order to produce good product or good services and at the same time employ people. Michael Barrett is with us. He's the CEO of AeroSat Corporation. Michael, how long you been in business? Give us a little feel for what you're doing. Let her go.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for having us here. AeroSat Corporation was inspired by your father in 1991. At that time, I worked...
I'll tell him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I worked at Lockheed Sanders in 1991 down in Nashua, and there was a request for some information pertaining to putting an antenna on board commercial aircraft.
Yeah.
We proposed, or supposed it was Air Force One, to allow worldwide coverage and reception of satellite programming. Immediately following that, of course, there was a liberation of Kuwait, and one could have seen immediately the effect of seeing the war real time, and certainly high executives and the president would benefit from that as well. It turned out in 1991, however, the technology didn't exist. The antennas were either too large or would be unsafe to install on a commercial aircraft. So at that point in time, I decided to dedicate my life to solving that challenge. And for the next 5 years, I spent my wife's life savings, I spent my life savings. We had friends helping. We worked in our basement out in Temple, New Hampshire. And at the end of 1996, we determined that we had, in fact, a new patent. A new antenna technology was emerging. At the same time, we could no longer pay our credit card bills with the interest rates. I went to a local bank, Citizens Bank, and did ask for help. And through a small business administration program, they agreed to fund and invest in AeroSat, and we started hiring employees. As I know that things are sometimes slow in Washington, D.C. to get things done, I had promised the bank that in 18 months that I would have our product transitioned to complete manufacturing and ready for sale. It took us 6 years. But as of last February 1st, Richard Clymer, he's one of our lead engineers at AeroSat, he and I drove a package to FedExpress up in Manchester and shipped our first crate to Basel, Switzerland, and the antenna was installed on a Boeing 747.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good.
And since that time, last year we were able to ship over $3 million worth of antennas. Thank you. The first 4 weeks of this year now, we have orders that exceed all of the sales we had for last year. And we're hiring regularly. Beginning of last year, we had 15 employees, which is significant to a small businessman. We increased our hiring. We have 26 by the end of the year. Just to give an example of the impact one employee can make, we asked one gentleman to come in and help with the patent writing and helping with the coordination of inventing new devices. We had normally invented 2 or 3 antenna components each year. In the last 16 weeks, we've identified 23 new patents that we're now writing for this year.
That's good.
We hired a vice president to work in finance to help the engineers coordinate the cash, learn how we could maintain our health care benefits and meet our cash flow needs. He has since installed new servers this month. We had new software being installed today to link all the company's operations together so we can more efficiently deliver product. So for us, it's just a very, very great time of the year. We're growing. We enjoy it. I'll note that here in New Hampshire, we have very good access, for example, to our elected officials. The Governor Benson has given us advice repeatedly. I have had an opportunity to meet with Senator Gregg in Sununu and Congressman Charlie Bass, who even came to our grand opening last year, as well as Jeb Bradley. And what they did for us in Washington, D.C. is helped us to introduce us to the FAA because we had a fantastic new product. Now, as a result of that discussion, we are working closely with the Technology Center in Atlantic City, and we're looking to demonstrate means of very, very low-cost communications to aircraft ones that will enable Homeland Security to be manifested through that efficient communications, will be beaming black box data down to the ground and not having to store it in an old 1970 floppy tape. And also, folks flying in the back could have low-cost internet access. So as we look at 2004 now, we have in our budget $1.4 million worth of new test equipment and computers, as well as some more hiring. That $1.4 million means quite a bit to us, and we have to balance cash flow with hiring. It turns out under your tax reform that we will realize approximately $190,000 in tax savings this year. So when you talk about small companies doing well, and I know several others as well, we're just exploding, we're enjoying it, we have a high quality of life, and I thank you for your leadership, and I thank you for helping us turn the corner here in New Hampshire with your tax reform.
Well, I appreciate that, Lee. Good job, real good. The role of government is not to create wealth, it is to create an environment in which people like Michael feel free and comfortable about taking risk. Listen, we can't make Michael have good ideas. We can't make him develop a good business plan. We can't make people be good business people. But we can say, if you're willing to invest, here's some more money. Here's some incentive to do so. He invests $1.4 million. Means he's buying equipment from somebody. Somebody has to manufacture it. Somebody's now working to manufacture that product. There's more vibrancy in the economy, just like when an individual makes a decision to purchase something. When a business does, the same thing happens. The effect throughout the economy is so positive and so strong. He said, you know, well, we hired 11 people last year. That doesn't sound like a lot to some of these mega corporations. It's a lot to a small business, and it's a lot to America when you think about the number of Michaels there are all over the country hiring an additional 11 people on an annual basis. Most new jobs in America are created by people like Michael, small business owners. 70% of the new jobs, and therefore any good policy says we must recognize the worth of the small businesses, provide incentives for small businesses, and when we do so, make those incentives permanent. And so I appreciate you, Michael, for coming. Good job. You ready, Geraldine? We got Geraldine Furlans with us. Geraldine is the president of Citronics. Geraldine is running a big company, and we're honored you're here. Thanks for coming. We look forward to hearing your story.
Mr. President, you refer to us as dreamers. Most of the people at Citronics refer to me as dreamer, too. As a child,
And boss, by the way.
as a child of the 60s, I started my career as a social worker and quickly learned that the best thing I could do to help people is to provide a job.
There you go.
Yeah. And I was blessed by having an opportunity given to me by an angel investor, Bob McRae, to help me start Citronics. And now I am turning ownership over to our employees through an ESOP, an employee stock ownership program. Citronics recognizes the fact that we have a stewardship responsibility to protect the environment. We also need to serve our community. We recognize that as a corporation, so we provide 10% of our pre-tax dollars to our local programs and also pay 20 hours per year per employee, okay, to go out and do volunteer work.
That's wonderful.
Okay, thank you. We also, I think for us to be competitive in the global economy, we also need to take responsibility for training our employees. So Citronics has invested and will invest this year 4% or $200,000 to cross-train employees so we can be competitive in the global economy. And we also run an open book management program where we train employees how to help us run our business. We're a $40 million contract manufacturer. When you hear about manufacturing going offshore, well, we are continuing to grow. So I'm as optimistic, if not more, than you are as far as the future. We do not own our own product. We produce other people's designs, such as a bomb detector unit that you have found in airports and embassies around the world. We produce communication systems for Harris Corporation. We produce circuit boards that go into the artificial heart. These are opportunities that America have for the future. And so now at 175 employees, we were 150 just last year. We're also about to hire 25 more employees. So I'm extremely optimistic about what is happening. Yes, I am. And in addition to that, we are going to be investing $1 million in capital equipment, which with your tax bonus depreciation approach, we will be able to save about $140,000, which we will reinvest in our people and our corporations. So on behalf of all the small businesses in America, I would like to thank you, Mr. President.
Well, I appreciate you, Geraldine. I appreciate it. I knew our generation would amount to something. Now, listen, I mean, one of the things that really is so wonderful about our country is the entrepreneurial spirit. You've heard it. You've heard people talk about the joy of creating job opportunities for fellow citizens and the joy of beating all odds and succeeding, and then the recognition of the responsibility that comes with success. And I appreciate that a lot. It's really a good example for people to see. By the way, if there's any young women here in New Hampshire wondering whether or not they can go into the business world, just take a look at Geraldine. I mean, realize what is absolutely possible if you've got a good idea and the heart to work hard and the ability to dream big.
With 65% women, that's the good and bad news for the men in the organization.
All right, Big Joe. Joe Landers is with us. He's the president and CEO of Customized Structured Inc. He's in the housing industry. Not a bad place to be these days, I suspect. Tell us about your company. Tell us about whatever you want to tell us. You got the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I'd like to thank you for your real definite support of housing in America. We all appreciate it. My company is a modular home manufacturer. We're located in Claremont, New Hampshire, and in 2004 we'll be celebrating our 20th year of existence. I have to tell you without a doubt that the last 3 years of business have been the best we have had in the last 20 years for housing. It's the mortgage interest rate that we're all certainly fond of these days. The mortgage interest deduction that continues to help families, along with the tax breaks we've all been experiencing, have all come together to help me and my 135 employees produce 400 houses last year to help house America. I'll tell you that we produce not only we produce affordable housing, workforce housing, we also produce upscale housing. We are so up on this economy and in great hopes that these tax credits will be extended and that other programs such as the home ownership tax credit will come to fruition, that we have just purchased a new facility and are transitioning into it. Our current facility is 80,000 square feet. We've just purchased a new 250,000 square foot facility.
That's great.
And we will add, within the next 9 months, we expect to add between 100 and 120 new employees to help continue housing America.
Good.
Thank you. If I might add, just as a side note, I don't know if you're aware of it, but your father's compound in Kennebunkport actually has a modular home on it that was put there for the Secret Service when he was president.
Oh yeah, that's good. Well, yeah. I'll tell him to buy a new one here from you. Listen, I started off by telling everybody I felt optimistic about the future of this country, and they've made my case. I hope if you listen to the stories of what's happening in America, you get this sense of optimism and the can-do spirit and the willingness of people to invest and save because they're confident about this country. And I am too. And I tell you, I'm going to repeat one reason why. I love the people of this country. I love the spirit of America. I love the entrepreneurial spirit, the spirit of love, the deep compassion, the love of family. The values of this country are strong, which makes America strong, which makes me grateful to be the president of the greatest country on the face of the earth. Thank you all for coming, and God bless.